Welcome to Haunting Live Podcast, a place where we bring a new paranormal guest each episode to share their journey and experiences.
Hey, Haunting Live podcast fans, this is your girl, Yolanta Meri, and today we have a fantastic podcast episode for you. Not only is she a writer and a chemist, but she's a talented tarot reader. Her name actually means fluffy. It is the wonderful Mokko, straight from Paris, France.
Hey everyone, check out our merchandise that we have now listed underneath Hauntinglivepodcast.com. We used to be on Etsy. We are now on Hauntinglivepodcast.com with our merch store. Check it out. We've got so much items all together with cleansing items and crystals and so much more. Check us out, Hauntinglivepodcast.com.
Follow us here at Haunting Live, our new shows, and we are honored to have a brand new co-host on our shows now. Yolanta Meri is our co-host, and she does a lot of work for us on the side and introduces people to the show and discusses different topics on the show. So we're really happy to have her here this season. So go check out our brand new episode.
Check out Divine Oracle Podcast with your hosts Gypsy Lady Eva and Brother Chris as they discuss spiritual topics and current events. Sit back and listen. Popping.
For more Haunting Live real experiences, be sure to follow us on our social on Instagram, Facebook, and also Blue Sky. And don't forget to also check us out on our official website, hauntinglivepodcast.com.
Hey, Haunting Live podcast fans, this is your girl, Yolanta Meri, and today we have a fantastic podcast episode for you. Not only is she a writer and a chemist, but she's a talented tarot reader. Her name actually means fluffy. It is the wonderful Mokko, straight from Paris, France. Hi, Mokko.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us from France and joining us today on Haunting Live. I appreciate you taking your time all the way from France today. How are things over there?
They're more or less peaceful. Last night was a bit of a mess because I was doing a tarot reading, and then one of my neighbors was having a very loud party at the same time.
That's no good.
So Mokko, you do you have a YouTube channel, yes, where you do tarot readings live?
Yes. And last night I was actually doing Taylor Swift.
Oh, so those not familiar with Mokko's channel, Mokko does celebrity readings live on her channel. So do you have any insight for us on Taylor Swift?
I don't know if I want to get anyone in trouble. I've actually done a deep dive on her maybe two years ago, I believe. But now that she's caught up in this Justin Baldoni case, and I think the news was that she was subpoenaed, so people wanted me to do an update on her and her relationship with Travis. And the celebrity readings, they're really fun to do because I'm nosy. I'm super nosy. I don't believe in psychically stalking celebrities, but I'll do a little story on them every once in a while. So they're fun, but the difficult part is when you have fans who join and they feel like they know these people really well because they have a parasocial relationship with them. And sometimes, people can say pretty nasty things whenever I read on really big celebrities. And you'd be surprised. It's a lot of the K-pop celebrities, but then if it's someone really big like Beyonce, sometimes Katy Perry, Jennifer Lopez has some very passionate fans. It can get pretty dicey. Thankfully, there weren't that many of her fans on the live last night. But she doesn't want to testify. I don't think you need a tarot reader to figure that out. I don't believe that she had much to do with casting, but in terms of sabotaging Justin Baldoni in order to get her name out there in the filming industry, yeah, she was part of it. She was part of it. But what I really like to do when I read on celebrities is I do read on the salacious things, like say for instance P. Diddy and all the stuff that's happening with him. But I also like to mix it with empathy, of course, but also because I recognize that some people who are watching the celebrity stuff, they may identify with that celebrity. And sometimes it's because they may have had a similar childhood. So, especially with Taylor Swift, I like to read on her childhood and what may have happened there that leads to her type of personality. And kind of, she's a bit tricky. I like her, but she's a bit tricky. So I tend to spend more time talking about them as a person rather than as a celebrity. And I think that maybe makes me a little bit different because I also see those videos as learning tools. So for people who may have a similar background or maybe going through similar things like drug addictions, they can hear a message that they see in the videos. And I also have people who are trying to learn how to read tarot and they watch those videos as well. So if something that I predicted happens in the real world, they can look back at that video and see the cards that I used to understand what was happening, and then they can learn as well. So I mean, it's kind of childish celebrity gossip, but I try to make it educational in a way as well,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, how did you get started in all of this? Like, how did you get drawn to tarot, and how did you get drawn into the celebrity part of it as well?
Well, I mean, that's kind of complicated.
Sure.
So I'm American, and I grew up in the American South in South Carolina,
Mm.
and I'm Geechee. So it's called Gullah, and then the Gullah people who left stayed on the island. The ones who left and went to the city, the mainland, were called Geechee. And in my culture, we have things like root workers. And it's kind of like voodoo, but kind of not. It's more like folk magic for African Americans down south.
Okay.
And hopefully, no one from my family sees this, but my grandma was basically a root worker in her youth.
Oh.
And she must have made some enemies because she was highly superstitious. So, specifically with me, if she would cut my hair, she would keep my hair in a bag and she would refuse to throw it out. She would keep it and burn it. And she used to cut my nails as well. And she would keep my nail clippings too. And I remember one time asking her, well, why do you do that? She said, oh, because I don't want the crows to get it, right? So anyway, so just keep that in the background. So I used to go to Barnes and Noble with my best friend. She loved to read manga, so basically anime. And one day we were 16, 15 years old, something like that. We went to Barnes and Noble. I'm bored because I don't read manga. And I see this beautiful, beautiful deck on display. It was Barber, Amy, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting their names. I actually ended up meeting them in person. I think it's Amy Zerner and Monte Farber. They are a married couple. I think Amy, she's a clothing designer, and Monte, he's like a psychic astrologer, something like that, and they live in New York. But that deck was so gorgeous. It was absolutely beautiful. But it's a difficult deck to have as your first because the imagery is gorgeous, but it kind of doesn't make sense at the same time. No shade. So I took that home, and despite my grandma's root working past, I grew up in a heavily, heavily Christian background. It's Southern Baptist, evangelical. I used to read Harry Potter. Some of my family members used to call me a witch, and I was controlled by the devil. So I grew up in that sort of household. But my grandma saw that I had tarot cards, and to my surprise, she told me to keep doing it, to just keep it a secret from my dad and everyone else. So I did that for a while. I mean, I used to think that I used to be a witch. I used to be on GeoCities, Angel Fire, looking for all these spells and everything. So it's something that I kept pretty much secret. I only told like really close friends, and then went to school, became a chemist. You kind of forget those things when you lead more with the logical side of your brain. And then sometime in, I think it was 2014, I was a fragrance chemist trying to become a perfumer, and I randomly went to a tarot reader in Brooklyn, and she used this deck, The Wild Unknown, and it was gorgeous. Again, another tarot deck drew me in, so I purchased the deck, and I decided, you know what, let me start practicing like full time. I was still a chemist, but I wanted to add more of that into my life. So I started doing that. And then some of my friends, they were just like, well, can you give me a reading? So I would give them free readings. And then I started becoming friends on Discord with K-pop fans. So they would ask me, can you do a numerology reading, a face reading, a tarot reading on these celebrities? And what I would say would actually come true. So then from there, I ended up building things. And there's even a bigger story for how I became full-time in it, but I'll keep it shorter. So 2020, I was supposed to go to France to go to a perfumery school. I was already accepted and everything. And COVID happened, of course, and things were pushed back. But I was accepted, getting my visa ready. Everything is all go. It's been 10 years. I'm trying to be a perfumer. And then I would say less than a week after I was accepted, I was hit by a car. And on my bike, this lady just ran into me, flew off. Everyone's taking videos and everything. It was that bad. Had knee surgery. I couldn't walk properly for, I would say, maybe 2 years. So I had to not be a perfumer. I couldn't go to France. I had to stay in my bed during lockdown for, from 2020 until 2023. And in between them, I decided, well, I don't really have anything else to do. I'm not working. I can't really walk. So let me just do tarot readings full time. And that's how it started, or at least the professional side of it. That's how it started. So, and what's interesting about that is I remember like just speaking to my guys and saying, listen, if I'm not supposed to do this perfumer thing, just take it away. And 3 days before I was going to get knee surgery, my job called me to tell me that I was fired because I hadn't come back in over 6 months. And it was difficult. I was so mad. I'm still mad about it now, but it's one of those things where you ask for it and then it happens. So it just goes to show this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's the story in a nutshell.
Oh, wow. So when people talk about silver linings to a bad situation, that is one heck of a silver lining.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I've developed patience because I really lack that in my normal life. And now it's to a point where I can't even imagine going back to a fragrance lab. I just can't imagine it.
So how was that rectifying like that scientific chemist mind to switch over to more of that flowy tarot or spiritual lifestyle? Because I imagine that would be very, very different going from more analytical or science-minded to the
well, I don't.
or
For me, it doesn't feel like it switches because it feels like it's always been there. Because again, I grew up heavily religious, but I used to get in trouble in Sunday school all the time for asking questions. My dad, he's an engineer, and a lot of the people in my family, they're teachers, but they're also in the military. So there's always been this sort of strict, I don't even know how to describe it, but kind of grounded mentality with my family. But then, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but I feel like Christianity is quite magical itself. I mean, religion is quite magical anyway. So it didn't really feel like a switch to me. And even when I was training to be a chemist, even the way that I saw, like, say, for instance, the electron cloud, I would always see it as, I would try to relate it to something that I believe. So the electron cloud, while these electrons are outside of the nucleus, oh gosh, I'm going to embarrass myself because I'm forgetting my chemistry. But I used to imagine it as, okay, so that probably explains why we can kind of feel auras, because if we think of the person as the atom and the electrons outside, we're bumping into each other's electrons. So I never really had too much of a switch. And because I was doing well, I'm not good at astrology, but I was doing numerology, astrology, and witchcraft on the side. It was always there. The issue that I have, well, here's my cat. The main issue that I have is when I come across people who are too material, and then people who are too woo-woo. Because if they're too far into the extremes, I just cannot. Like, for instance, and again, no offense to anyone, But when I get clients who ask me about twin flames, I'm just like, okay, or if I get a client where I get the impression that there could be some demonic thing or some possession thing or some spell hex or whatever on them, and they completely dismiss it while they're seeing a tarot reader, then I respond like, really? Like, are you kidding me? So I feel like I'm more or less in the middle. I tend to be I believe in a lot of crazy stuff, but I also tend to try to find a logical explanation for things first before I jump to the conclusion that, okay, this is something that's outside of regular logic. So I would say I'm more or less balanced. It doesn't feel like I'm making too much of a switch. But I will say the switch into more spiritual stuff became easier after COVID, for reasons I'm not really going to get into. But it just became a little bit a little bit easier.
I'd like to touch a bit about your, I don't want to call it the voodoo background, but like the spells
Oh,
and the casting and the witchery kind of things
oh.
that you're kind of into. I find that fascinating.
So let me be cautious here.
Yeah.
In my little Instagram bio, I mean, this is for SEO. I say that I'm a witchy woman, but what I notice, and I've been speaking to actual practicing witches, is that I don't actually do much of it anymore.
Mm.
And I think maybe because now I feel quite satisfied with life, and I don't do it professionally either. I can't handle that. I don't necessarily feel the need, but definitely, I remember when I was in elementary school. So I'm part of the generation where we grew up with the craft.
Mm.
With Neve Campbell, I think she's
Yes.
Canadian. I used to love her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we grew up with the craft, and light as a feather, stiff as a board, all this stuff.
Hmm.
And my best friend at the time, her name was Alexandra, and there was a different lady, maybe Kelsey. We would, so we had our elementary school was in one spot, and then across the street, we went to a Christian daycare, a very Christian daycare. And what we would do is we would pretend like we were witches. There were a lot of honeysuckle everywhere. We would just pick them and put them in a pot or go to the river in the backyard of the daycare and pretend like we were making a witch's brew. And that's just what we did. And then after that, oh man, my dad got a computer. So then I would sneak. Oh gosh, I hope he doesn't see this,
No.
but I would sneak at like 3 or 5 in the morning before he woke up to go to work and just turn on his computer, search for things like I used to be on Angel Fire websites all the time to look for spells and GeoCity spells like Wiccan stuff. I mean, I see you're nodding your head, so
Mhm.
maybe you remember them, how they had
Oh
like
yeah.
the
Yes.
black background and the stars and everything or whatever. So
Yep.
that's what we would do. We would write them down in a composition notebook, and we would do stuff. But I will say for myself, when I was younger, I used to live with my grandma. When I was younger, I used to hear things. I used to hear like whispers into my ear. And my grandma used to say, "Oh, that's your guardian angel speaking to you. Don't worry about it." And then I used to see orbs of light as well. And of course, it's a Christian background. She would say there's no such thing as ghosts, but there are spirits. Well,
Mhm.
it's a Christian root workish background. But there was one time, I hope my family doesn't see this. There was one time there were a couple of family members who were not being that nice to me. And I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I got this person's hair from a brush. I created a doll,
Oh.
wrapped it around, stomped on it, and then buried it. And I, I kid you not. I mean, she found out her boyfriend was cheating on her. She lost her job and everything. I ended up feeling bad about it. So I try to take it back, but I think that was the first spell that I had done. And then once I started going on those websites, I would see things like freezer spells, so I would do that. But it was mostly like I felt like I was being bullied or that I was being singled out, for whatever reason within my family, not even people outside. So I would do that. Little did I know that my family, they were actually going to real root workers to get things done to other people. So that's what I used to do. Nowadays, I don't do much myself, to be honest. I mean, I have a couple of altars. You can see it there, but they're ancestor altars, and I have one for a couple of Greek deities that I really connect with. But in terms of asking them things, I don't really do too many rituals. For me, it's more of an appreciation. And if I get something, then that's cool, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to actual work, one of my good friends, she is a very powerful witch. I go to her. I don't do the work myself. And I've worked with witches before, but there have only been two where I felt like they were real. And it's mostly because of what I experienced after working with them. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies now. She's real. I feel like I have talent, but not really the desire to actually do spell work for myself.
Now you are you're doing just mostly the tarot. Are you still doing the numerology as well?
No, it's no, I'm not doing numerology. I do tarot. I do tarot readings. And actually right now I'm in school. I'm about to graduate in a couple of weeks. So I don't even have time to do anything else, to be honest.
Okay, so let's just what are things for people that maybe aren't familiar with the depth that tarot can give us? What are
Mhm.
things that would be beneficial for people to ask or understand about tarot that maybe they're not asking or understanding right now? Because it feels as though they're probably just asking really surface level questions when we can probably
Mm.
go a little bit deeper and get better responses and better changes within life.
I would say, I mean, listen, I'm guilty of asking plenty of surface level questions. Like last night, I asked the cards, I asked my guys, should I keep giving my cat this medication tonight? And they're just like, yeah. So I ask questions like that all the time. I'm guilty as charged. Actually, I think what I see often, so I try not to watch other readers too often because I don't want to be biased or anything when I'm doing like my own celebrity reading. But even with some of the people I know, some clients who are learning, is so for me, I don't use spreads at all. I don't use spreads because sometimes I think that in using a spread, you can kind of confuse the message a little bit. So, say for instance, you're using a Celtic cross spread, and it has a specific placement, a specific way that it answers a question. So yes, the question may be answered by the King of Cups or something like that. But maybe if you take if you go backwards to look at the spread and see it from a grander point of view, I'm kind of losing my English words.
Mm-hmm.
You may see a different message there that's not actually answering the questions that you pose to it. So I think I would tell people that just because you ask a question and you get cards, that doesn't mean that the question was actually asked. And I tell this to clients all the time when I'm doing live readings with them that yes, you do have these things that you want to answer, but sometimes, like say for instance, a lot of people want to know about love, but sometimes they want to talk to you about you need to see your doctor. And this is going to be the first thing that they tell me. And I think readers, they need to pay attention to make sure that what they're asking is actually being answered versus what spirit wants you to know. And for me, the way that I read nowadays is I'm not just pulling cards. I'm also reading with spirit. So I actually call down or call spirit around me to help me with this. So it's not just coming from me. And that's why I tell my clients that I don't actually have control over what they say. So, like, maybe now is not the right time to ask if you should go out on a date with this guy. Maybe now is the time to talk about your career, you know? So I would say that that's something that people should pay attention to. I'm fine with the surface level questions. It's just make sure that the question or the card that you're receiving, it's actually answering the question that you asked. Because a lot of the times they just tell you what they want you to know. I've noticed.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well when I watch other channels as well. When they do the spreads or whatever, they're on a certain topic and trying to find an answer to a question or something. It's like
Yeah.
totally different answers that the cards give to something else. So I do notice that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So do you do readings? You say you do readings with spirit. Is there a way that you sort of meditate first to connect with spirit before you start your reading, or?
So when I first started out, I didn't even have a process. I would just draw cards. Um, which is it's not well, if you're doing it for yourself, I think that's fine, but when you're a professional, not really. I think you have to have some kind of protocol. And what started it is yeah, definitely from 2014 until 2020, that's how I used to read, just fortune telling. Okay, that's what I'll call it. I used to do fortune telling, but somehow, and I don't even know how it happened, but during COVID, a lot of things happened during COVID because I had so much time in my apartment. My job was not considered essential, so I was literally in my apartment meditating maybe like 2 or 3 times a day. Is I created this routine for myself. So this is the elaborate perfect day: is to wake up, do some yoga, and then sit at an altar, light a candle and incense, and meditate. And I always have water out there for them. I always have chocolate or something out there for them. And then I would actually ask in my mind to bring down my guide and actually have a specific sequence for when they're telling me that they're showing up. I can feel them. I can definitely feel them, but there's a card sequence. So I chose cards as my tool to speak with them. And then we talk about what's happening today. These days, I'm hearing more about my clients and not about my own life. No thanks to them. But that's the sequence for me. But if I want like a deep, I guess like a deep communication, then I would do a spirit guide meditation. And I took some classes from this lady, Nelly Resnick. Actually I think she's Russian Jewish. But she lives in Brooklyn. I took meditate or mediumship classes from her a few years ago. And she, for whatever reason, I love her voice. Her voice really helps me to get in the zone. So I would do like a 17 to 20-minute spirit guide meditation. And that's when I can like really feel them on me and at my back and everything. And then I'm just pulling cards, and sometimes I'm doing some automatic writing. But it's my tool is mostly the cards. So that's what I do. But now when I'm working with clients professionally, I do an abbreviated version of it. So I do maybe 1 minute to 2 minute of breathing exercises to clear myself. And then when I read for them, I'm not actually working with my guides directly because I feel like, I mean, there's some bias there. So what I would do is I request that my guides work with theirs so that we as a team can bring them the best information for their highest good. And I always put in for their highest good in there because there have been times where I didn't actually use that. I think maybe for about a year, I didn't request that. And I noticed how I would receive the truth, like a truthful answer about a situation this person is going through. But then what I'm told to tell them can sometimes be different from what the truth actually is. For example, there was one client who she wanted to end things with her husband, and she was thinking of some guy at her job. And actually, she didn't tell me that she was married, by the way. She didn't tell me this other person was married. But as I'm reading, they're giving me this information. So for any potential clients, you can't hide from me. But they're giving me this information that, this lady is married. This other guy is married. There actually is an attraction between the both of them. But her husband is going through like some sort of difficulty. He needs more time. He needs more understanding. So tell her that, yes, there is an attraction between you and this person, but it's not going to work out. This person is going to go back to his wife and you're going to lose like everything, custody of it. So they were telling me what to tell her. And I feel like maybe 2 years later, she ended up sending me a picture of she and her 2 sons and her husband, and they're happy. So was it the truth? It was the truth, but it was edited in a way to get her to react in a specific way that would be good for her in the long run. So since that incident, I say, okay, just tell me what's good for them. just tell me what's good for them. So yeah, so that's my edited process. I do that process more often than the long one, to be honest.
Well, that just shows that there is something higher working with you when you do readings, right? It shows that there's a directive almost from somewhere else guiding you and helping you. So that's a good thing.
Well, actually, and this is something that, I was self-taught basically. In 2021, I took these mediumship classes from, I mentioned her name before, Nelly Resnick. And it was a small group thing, 6 courses. And at the end of the courses, we had 2 sessions to be to have with her privately. And she told me that the way that I read, she was like, "Oh, you're going to burn out so quickly." And the thing is I can be competitive sometimes, and especially when it comes to the truth. So I say, "Give me the truth and the absolute truth." Like I don't know, Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men, and I would feel that there would be this thing shooting up, and it would go. Oh, well, it would go all the way up there. And then I would feel this heavy pressure around me and getting lightheaded and everything. And that's how I would read. And when I started to take her classes, and we learned how to work with our aura in this mediumship, but also how to speak to, well, the way I see it is behind me, to deceased human spirits. And there was one time where we did a higher self exercise, and another time when we did an angelic exercise. And the feeling that I had when I would used to read for, I would say, the first year and a half, was the angelic feeling that I was getting when I was working with her. And to be honest, like I said, I believe in this stuff, but I'm also highly skeptical. So I'm just like, we're going to talk to Archangel Michael. Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. But I'm telling you, I felt it. I felt it. And when we had our solo conversations, she told me that you don't need to do all of that just to give people readings. Like, please. I mean, she kind of told me to stop showing off. But that's what it felt like. I haven't felt that in a long time. But maybe it's a good thing because I don't get as tired as I usually do. I noticed that, especially with what's happening with American celebrities and all these like sexual harassment and assault cases, I just skim them now. I don't go too deep into them. And I think that's just my guys, the folks that I work with, they're helping me to stay grounded and not get too involved in other people's mess. So,
Do you find that sometimes? Do you get a deep dive into a celebrity and they get kind of murky and messy? And
Travis Kelce, last night was, usually it happens when someone is heavily, allegedly addicted. And I actually mentioned it last night. The video is actually premiering tonight, this Sunday. But I mentioned it how even with clients, sometimes it's mostly drugs. Is when they start to become addicted to it. It's almost like I can see these and feel these energies connected to them. That's sort of like sucking off of them. And there was one time. So last night it wasn't that bad, but there was one client. She's moving out of her home, and she didn't tell me why she wanted to move, besides, oh, I really hate the city that I live in. And I kept seeing this masculine energy in her reading. I was like, well, who is this person? This person feels like a Gemini's son. Who is this guy? And she was like, oh, it's not my baby daddy. It's not this, it's not that. So I was like, okay. And, but the person keeps popping up. And I said, wait a minute. There's some like Gemini dude. He's aggressive. He's quite angry. I feel like he may have some sort of addictions. He's maybe a family member or like a friend who could be a family member. And she said, yes, that's my brother. And I asked her, what is his name? And she told me. And I got like the grossest feeling from this person. And I could feel like here, this sort of, it was like punching me in the forehead. And I hadn't felt that before. I tend to be really well protected. But for this person, when I was asking, so why is this person so aggressive? And he was a piece of crap. Like, I will say that he was, but there was this thing attached to him that didn't want me to read on it. And it was the first time that happened in any kind of reading where this thing was actually attacking me and telling me, well, I heard it. It was saying, well, I don't know if I can curse, but it was saying, back off, bitch. And I was like, okay, I'm good. We don't need to do this anymore. But it turned out that he had a big addiction problem. And I just chalk it up to, I mean, it's partially that person's own issues and negativity that comes with addiction sometimes, but it's also these things that attach to them. And again, I'm not going to come out and say it's demonic, but it probably was. It probably was. So
but you're able to actually pick up on that energy that was attached, and it was kind of fighting back against you. That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And even and this actually happens a lot with because I have some clients in the Middle East and Central Asia, And I used to have a lot of clients in Pakistan, and it makes sense. I'm not being stereotypical. But this one client's mother, there was a demon attached to her. And I was explaining that it's actually not your mom who's hurting you, it's this person who is. And usually people feel like really weirded out. Even if they're seeing a tarot reader, maybe they're not that deep into it. And she said, "Oh, I know. My dad's ex-wife that she stole my dad from, she put a curse on our family, and now my mom has been acting crazy like that." So some people they know, and they accept, and other people it's like a complete shock. But for that one, it wasn't attacking me per se. It was kind of like watching me a little bit, and I was getting like, whoa, like what's going on? And we're on video, and she turned around and she could see that a plant just fell over. So I don't know.
wow.
It could have been a draft, but we were both looking at it like, what the hell is that?
Oh my goodness.
So it happens. It happens sometimes. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a fan of it. But it happens. And last night, the Taylor Swift reading, it's not her, it's that guy she's with. I hate his energy. I can't stand it. I don't like reading on it. I felt so sick before I went to bed last night. I don't like it.
Interesting.
But so far, Diddy has been the worst.
Oh my god. So
He's been-
when's T Swift having a baby?
I saw she wants one within 3 years. Within 3 years. She sees that it makes sense with him. I don't really feel love like that. It feels like they're really good friends. It's kind of like a PR friend type of thing. It makes sense for her to have one with him. So I've been saying this, I think maybe since, well, I don't even know when they got together, because funny enough, I don't actually follow these celebrities because I don't want to be tainted by what I already know. But whenever they got together, I did that video and I say, yeah, I see them having a baby, not really being married, but a baby. She wants to be a mom. So I would say within 3 years, if they stay together. I don't know. I don't like him for her.
Okay. I'd almost think it's sooner than that, but that 3 years, that's a pretty good window.
Yeah, it's within 3 years. Within.
Okay. So what other like wild things did you see in the tarot, or just, I don't know, it almost feels as though you're like, it's like psychic or guided on top of the tarot. What's kind of blown your mind a little bit?
Okay. This has nothing to do with tarot, actually. It's I'm starting to stutter now. So it's one of those things when you know something intellectually, but it's not until you experience it that you actually believe it. So again, when I was growing up, there were root workers in the neighborhood. People saw them for love spells and whatever, and then they would go to church the next day. Some of my family members went to some of them. I went to one lady when I was like in my 20s, because there definitely was a hex on me. Well, it was actually on my grandmother. Oh, I found out why my grandma used to keep my hair is because she used to be a root worker. Someone cursed, put a hex on her, whatever you want to call it, and they wanted to curse her favorite children and her favorite grandchildren. My grandma does not have favorite children, but she does have a couple of favorite grandkids, and I was one of them. And it was definitely passed down to me. And I worked with this one lady to get it off me. And this woman, she was legitimate, but she was also a bit of a scammer. And she got it off me. And the funny thing is the day after I did work with her, this root worker, he showed up. I don't remember what movie I was watching, but it was myself, my grandma, and my dad. And we were going to the Dollar Theater or something like that. This was like mid 2000s. And I saw this person there, and he looked like a stereotypical voodoo guy, dreadlocks. Well, dreadlocks is kind of offensive now. Long beard, salt and pepper beard with like feathers and whatever, beads. And he had a freaking staff, dude, like Gandalf. And we're in the theater, and I see this man get up and he walks behind me back and forth 3 times. And I'm just like, yo, what is happening? So there's that. But I would say the most what the F experience I had is my friend, which I really hope you guys have her on the show because she's amazing. She did work for me. And this was the first time I was working with her as a client. And again, I believe this stuff, But I just like, it's not until you experience it that it's just like, oh wow, it actually happened. So she agreed to do this work. And when you do work with a witch or with whatever, you make a spiritual pact with that person as well as the energies that they work with. And she works with a lot. She's so powerful. So that night, it was December 22nd. I went to bed. And I think I fell asleep. Yeah, I think I was still like my leg was still in cast and everything. And my computer was right in front of me. My cat was sleeping there and all this stuff. And I went to sleep. And then I jolted awake and I felt like this like hot like fire thing just go straight from here all the way down, and it went to my chest, and I could feel my body just like buzzing and vibrating. I mean, well, if you've ever seen plastic in a microwave, that's what, or not plastic, but like aluminum foil in a microwave, that's what my body felt like. Like it was kind of on fire, and it felt like I was like melting, but then I was buzzing at the same time. And then even though I felt like I was melting, like my skin felt like it was hard at the same time. So I feel all this stuff, and then I feel what felt like hands in my chest, and it felt like it squeezed my heart 3 times, like that. And I'm sitting here like, do I have COVID? Like, what is going on? Like, what's happening here? And it felt like it went on forever. But then I heard sort of like a laugh. It didn't sound like an evil laugh or anything, but it was creepy. I heard a laugh, and then it went away. And then after that, like immediately after that, I heard the cha-ching sound. So if you have an Etsy or something, it was Etsy. It has that little chime, the little ching chime.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was ching chime, and I was like, so then my computer was there, and I made a sale, and it was 3 in the morning. It was 3 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and I look at my computer, refresh it, and the person who purchased something from me, their name on Etsy was Beautiful Soul,
No.
and excuse me. It was Beautiful Soul. I was just like, what the F was that, man? What was that? And then, I was like, okay, well, let me just go to sleep. And what was interesting is my cat, he wasn't freaking out. He was like at the foot of my bed. And I'm looking at him, I was like, are you supposed to do something? Like, what are you doing? So then the next day, I was like, was that her? Should I tell her something? And then I thought, oh, maybe not. Well, it's not the next day, it's the same day, but that morning. And then later on in the afternoon, I'm thinking of like, maybe I should tell her, like, what was that? But it slipped my mind. And then I called Amazon for something. And the person that I spoke to shared the name of my friend. So her name is Shireen. And this person's name was Shireen. She did a great job. So I asked her, oh, what's your name so I can like give you a really good review? And she said, oh, my name's Shireen. So I was like, okay. Let me just contact her. Let me just contact her. So I contacted my friend, and she said, oh, yeah, they really love you. My spirits really love you. So I was like, okay, all right. And anytime she's done work for me, I would feel that. And now, so it's been some years. So now whenever they come to visit me, because they visit me quite often, we have this game of how quickly can I get them to get off me? And the last time we did it, this is going to sound so insane, but the last time we did it, I could hear laughter. I could absolutely hear laughter. And I think the last time I could actually hear their voices that time. And that actually was a bit creepy because I'm just like, bro, what is this? So there's that. But I do have a negative version of this. So I moved into this apartment relatively recently, back in October, and it's a studio. This is France. This is actually a huge apartment for Paris, and my bed was actually here, and I would face the window outside because I love facing windows, and I was sleeping on my back. And I have a medium friend who told me that some of the spirits from my old apartment actually followed me here, which I'm fine with that because I think they're delightful. And she's just like, yeah, they're watching out, they're making sure that you're protected, da da da, whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm laying in my bed. This is October, and I'm laying like this for some stupid reason, and I I can't, I don't remember how this happened, but I lucid dream often. But I don't actually control my dreams because I like to see where my dreams take me. And I guess I was lucid dreaming. And then and this actually was the first time this happened. I could like see my body in my bed, right? And I could see my body raised slightly above the physical, and we were making the same pose like this. And then out of nowhere, something just came on top of me. And at first, I'm thinking that, oh, this is my friend's Jin, we're gonna play. But I couldn't see it, I could feel it, but I was like, no, something about this doesn't feel right. Like, what's happening here? So this thing started like it didn't speak, but it was giving me this impression of like open your arms. So I kind of went like that, and then zoom, it pressed on me. So I was like, oh no. I curse a lot, by the way. I'm being on my best behavior right now. But I basically said, get the F off me, like mentally, right? And I could see my real body and my spirit body and my like both bodies, we went like that to it. And it was so weird. It felt like it snapped back. Like I was shocked and it was shocked that I like just said, get off me, right? And it left. And again, I looked at my cat like, why aren't you doing anything? um I've been that thing actually freaks me out because it's visited me quite a few times, with the most recent time being this year. I was in the States for Christmas, and then I came back, and then I immediately fell sick. And one night I was in a feverish delirium, and it was back again.
Mm.
And by this point, I was fed up with it because it's just like, I don't know who you are, sir. Like, I don't know what you're doing. If you want to hang out, like, just like be nice about it, but you can't just go jumping on top of people. So I actually curse this thing out.
Yep.
And I tried my best to like get it off me. But that thing, I still don't have an explanation for what that thing is, until I listened to a podcast last week. It was literally last week where this guy was saying that sometimes there are negative energies, demonic, whatever you want to call it, that want to share your life. So possession, if you want to call it that. And he said that when he would take a certain drug, I forgot what he said it was, he would actually see this thing when he's dreaming. And that podcast is so wild, but he would actually see that thing. And for the longest time, he thought it was sleep paralysis, but it wasn't until he taught himself how to lucid dream where he could actually see that it was a spirit or something that was trying to take him over. So I don't know if that's what that thing was doing to me, but like that was creepy. But now when people talk about like sleep paralysis or like a succubus, like my family, we used to talk about that all the time, a succubus or incubus, and I would think like, oh yeah, whatever, that's like stupid, superstitious or religious stuff. No, it's real, or at least I think it's real.
Well, when you're
Sorry for
talking
that long
about
explanation.
something sort of being on you during your dreams and you're sort of out of body at the point where you feel this entity on you, I was kind of drawn to the night hag because that's sort of what they do. They kind of attach themselves to you when you go out of body. So that's kind of what I
Oh,
was thinking it could be as well, but it could also be incubus or succubus as well.
they're different. They're all different.
They're all different, unfortunately, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever that thing is, don't come back.
No.
That's all I know.
Well, it's very interesting. I've appreciated all your stories today and sharing some of your experiences that you've had with our audience here today on Haunting Live, and also telling us a little bit about how you do your tarot. It's been very insightful. Thank you so much.
No problem. Oh, well, sorry, my cat wants to join.
That's okay. We'd love to see him on camera.
And
There he
Hello.
is. Hi, buddy.
Moko, just for people that want to find you online, how can they find you?
Oh, yes. Oh, I didn't promote at all. You can find me at www.terrorbymokko.com. You'll find all my links there. I'm on Etsy as well, YouTube, Instagram, but the content that I have on Instagram, it gets posted on YouTube. It's just if people want to come to a live celebrity reading, you have to follow me on Instagram. And then I also do free readings once a month when I have time, usually around the full moon. I actually had one last night. And then also, I'm getting into copywriting for other spiritual people. I just launched the website Wednesday, so it was this week. I just launched it. That's going to be called the Astro Scribe. So I'm not necessarily taking clients now, but if people are interested in having a professional tarot reader write their websites or blogs or anything for them, then I'm starting to do that as well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking your time, especially, like I said, all the way over there. So it's wonderful to connect with you. So,
all right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Miss one of our episodes? Replay your episodes on Rhode Island Broadcasting. Show your support for Haunting Live by supporting our broadcast partner, Rhode Island Broadcasting. Find them on YouTube. For more Haunting Live real experiences, be sure to follow us on our social on Instagram, Facebook, and also Blue Sky. And don't forget to also check us out on our official website, hauntinglivepodcast.com.